certainly Judgment Day in former President Jacob Zuma's bid to have lead prosecutor Billy Downer recused from his corruption trial. The special plea saw the start of the trial, initially scheduled for earlier this year, being pushed back by several months. Zuma wants Downer off this case because he's of the belief that the prosecutor lacks impartiality and independence. Get your sense of what else to expect. Bring in our senior reporter, Ziyanda Ngcobo, who's already outside the Pietermaritzburg High Court for us on this chilly morning, Ziyanda. And I guess those are the kind of feelings, for lack of a better term, that many people won't be worried about, considering what's at stake here today. If Billy Downer is recused from this corruption trial, Zuma's asking that he also be acquitted. That's a pretty big deal.
Absolutely, but he's also entitled by the law to actually request this, according to Section 106(1)(4) of the Criminal Procedures Act. And you'll recall that the former president, through his lawyers, has said that Billy Downer has shown on many occasions that he's too invested in seeing him being placed behind bars, that the fact that he cried when he heard about the NPA's decision to drop the charges against Zuma is an indication of such, but also the fact that Billy Downer deposed an affidavit alongside the DA's application to actually reinstate the charges against Zuma, he says proves that Billy Downer is not fit for this trial. But of course, on the other hand, we know that Billy Downer is someone who would know this case very well. He successfully prosecuted Shabir Sheikh in 2004, and if you look at the composition of that NPA prosecutions team, he would be the one who would obviously lead it, but also be able to link, what took place in 2004 with Sheikh's trial and with this particular one. And so many are saying that that's part of the strategy to actually remove someone like Billy Downer, who has the institutional memory to actually tackle this particular matter. The complication, however, Ayanda, is that Billy Downer is also due for retirement soon. And so some are saying that this is also, if you believe in the school of thought that Zuma adopts the Stalingrad strategy, that he's in fact employing that to ensure that by the time this trial actually gets ahead, Billy Downer is due to retire, and actually a new prosecutor would have to come in and take over overseeing this trial.
And it's also interesting to note, Ziyanda, the fact that Pietermaritzburg, who's representing the state, has argued in some respects that a lot of the points being raised by the former president have already been ventilated in court and in some respects disregarded, completely rubbished.
Absolutely. Pietermaritzburg saying that at least 139 paragraphs from the former president's permanent stay of prosecution application, which was dismissed, have been copied and pasted into the special plea. And when you file this special plea, according to the Criminal Procedures Act, you have to prove without reasonable doubt why the prosecutor should not form part of this trial. You must prove prejudice and how you as the accused would be prejudiced, or how your rights would be infringed if that particular prosecutor continues overseeing that trial. Now, another aspect to this matter, Ayanda, is the fact that the former president now seems to have almost puts other strategies in place by actually opening a case against Billy Downer. So should, for an example, the judgment rule against him and not in his favor, it would seem that the other strategy would be to say, well, even if this trial gets underway, having someone like Billy Downer, it will constantly be questioned why you have a prosecutor who's currently being investigated by authorities. How can he be fit for overseeing this particular trial? So certainly a very important judgment that will be handed down today. Of course, this has been described as a trial within a trial. And of course, this judgment also gives way and paves the way for an actual trial date to be set down. And actually, after nearly 2 decades in the making, perhaps, finally, we will get to the witnesses. We will get to the gravity of the evidence that will be leveled against the former president, and actually get some answers as to who was involved in this particular arms deal.
the longest countdown to a trial date, I think, that many of us have ever been a part of, Ziyanda. But very quickly, we also know as important as today is the former president is not going to be in court, at least if statements from his foundation are anything to go by. The former president, though, was at a police station, I think it was last week sometime, laying charges against the same Billy Downer. No telling how this, if at all, will factor in today's proceedings.
Well, interestingly, I mean, I saw a heavy presidential protection service detail, and it had regular faces that one usually sees when the former president appears here in court. So in terms of whether or not he will be present, I'd say it's 50-50. I think judging from the way things have been going, it seems that a sweep is about to get underway in and around this court. That usually gives an indication that he will be in court today. Remember, as you've already mentioned, last week he went to a police station here in Pietermaritzburg. He went there to personally to open a case against Billy Downer and lay that charge. So it will be interesting that if he isn't here in court today, how they plan to justify that. But as I've already mentioned, I've already seen some of the familiar faces that we usually see in terms of a security detail already here this morning doing their usual rounds before he arrives.
Ziyanda Ngcobo, thanks very much indeed for that much-needed context. Something tells me you have a long day ahead. We'll have many other opportunities to speak throughout the course of today. Ziyanda Ngcobo, our senior reporter, live to us there from just outside the High Court, sitting in Pietermaritzburg.